Take a listen to a few of these clips.
You think Epstein was the scandal? That was the bait. Real architects sit on thrones, wear robes, and drink wine while feeding on children's souls in Vatican crypts. Look, let's name what they won't. The 13 bloodlines that run the world aren't who you think. Orsini, Aldo Brandini, Pallavicini, Medici, Breakspear, Farnese, Rothschild, Rockefeller, Warburg, Hanover, Lee, Bruce, Habsburg. These are not old money. They are Baalic parasitic bloodlines. Ritual sorcerers who hijacked empires and installed mind control systems under the illusion of religion, politics, and finance. Where's their origin point? Venice. The Black Venetian nobility ran Babylonian blood cults under Catholic masks. They merged with the Vatican, embedded into the Jesuit priesthood, and exported global slavery through maritime law, trapping you in birth certificates, taxes, and silent contracts with no consent. Venice wasn't a city of romance. It's a sacrificial basin. Why do you think the Pope wears a fish hat? That's not Christian. That's Dagon, a Nephilim water demon. Look, Epstein wasn't a financier. He was a human trafficker for the priest class. He ran blackmail rituals for the elite, orgies timed to celestial gates, using children pre-programmed through MK Ultra satellite nodes. Who funded him? Rothschild-backed banks. He admitted this. Mossad and CIA intelligence mergers. Chabad Lubavitch financiers masked as philanthropists. Why is Ghislaine Maxwell still alive? Because her father, Robert Maxwell, was a triple agent field operator for the Vatican Chabad MI6 axis. Epstein's Islands temple is a mirror replica of Baal's altars in ancient Tyre. Literally, the owl statues, not for aesthetics, they're invitation gates for entities. Comment, scroll, and I'll send you the full decoded map. Families, cults, islands, bloodlines, oaths, nothing hidden, everything unveiled. Think about it. Why do the Masons care more about rituals than politics? Because politics was just the front. The true power is ritualized trauma. Here's exactly how they move. Jesuits equal infiltration and education. They wrote your textbook, scripted your news, and flipped your morals through semantic inversion. Freemasons equal gatekeeping plus maintenance grid. Lodges are ritual fields, not clubs. The checkerboard floor, it's a dimensional binding grid. Chabad Lubavitch equals economic controllers of AI, neuroscience, and cloning. They bankroll the puppet governments, own biometric patents, and sit on quantum computing boards. All three serve the Black Sun priesthood. Shadow Vatican that answers to no government, no court, no God you were taught about. They install presidents, they run wars for soul harvest, and they script pandemics not just for population control, but for ritual sacrifice and initiation of mass trauma loops. Look, everything you were taught was a ritual veil. They fed on your doubt. They survived by your silence. But you're the anomaly. You remember.
Bottom line, they're vampires. Vampires. They all walk among us in a human avatar. And they got hooks on you in every way you could never fathom. Next clip.
You're actually out of the body when you're dreaming at night. So when you sleep for 7 or 8 hours, you're going to spend 3 hours. This is medical studies now. This is hard no science now. We've known this since the 1950s when we discovered the 4 brainwaves. You spend 3 hours out of the body into the 5th dimension. The question is, where do you go? Most people, because they don't know what you're doing, or because they're arguing with their wife, or they're worrying about problems, or because they had too many drugs, they go to the lower astral plane. That's a very bad neighborhood.
Like hell.
Well, except you can get out of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like purgatory. Okay.
Purgatory. Okay.
Whereas if you use the techniques I described in psychic protection techniques and more positive things, you can leave through the crown chakra, not through the 3rd chakra, which will take you to the lower astral. If you go to the crown chakra, which is where you want to go, now you go to the upper astral plane or the causal, mental, etheric, or even soul plane. Those are all positive dimensions. Okay. The only 2 negative dimensions are the lower astral plane and this one. We have a lot of problems here. But the other dimensions are all positive. And each dimension has a sound and certain characteristics that are relevant to it. For example, if you're out of the body and you hear the roar of the sea, you're on the astral plane. If you hear the tinkling of bells like in a New Age bookstore, now you're on the causal plane where the Akashic Records are stored. If you hear the sound of running water, you're on the mental plane. And if you hear the buzzing of bees, you're on the etheric plane. Or if you hear the sound of a flute, you're on the soul plane.
In a nutshell, we all go to sleep. You know, when you want to take a nap or when you want to go to sleep for the night, we go to sleep. Our body goes to sleep. But our soul or essence leaves the body that's when we wake up. Our consciousness, subconscious, depending. And we go to the astral. And depending on who you are and what you're signed up to do, be a healer, a warrior, a soldier, that is what you're doing in the astral. Now, while your body's asleep, you have to make sure that you don't have mirrors or anything that is clear surface where your soul would be confused on where you are at to come back to. Even though we have a silver cord that's connected to our soul, still, while we're out there, we are putting ourselves in danger of being where entities, dark forces, can literally occupy our body if we stay out there too long, or if our cord is supposed to be a cord that never breaks unless you are a few seconds before death is when it would break. And but when you're out there, you need to always remember to have protection shields on you, especially your mind, because dark entities, while in between here and there, or depending what dimension you're in, or reality, or a timeline, or what level of hell you're in, because sometimes you have to go to hell to fight a demon. Depending on that, you have to always make sure you protect your mind, because they can penetrate your mind and pick what is the weakness you have and use that against you. And that's where they can beat you. I know this for experience. So just be careful when you're out there. You always keep yourself in the mantra, affirmation, manifestation, intent form before going to sleep. Next video.
Our melanin is produced in darkness. Now, when you get towards the daylight hours, that hormone is decreased. Now we've got sunrise, we've got dawn. As soon as the eyes perceive the light, then it starts to shut down. Then you produce another type of hormone, but basically it's melatonin, but it's known in a different name, or with a different name. During the daylight hours, our body produces serotonin. It's melatonin, but with a different name. Now, during the daylight hours, the melatonin geeks you up so that you can work, so that you can have a lot of energy, so that you can go to your jobs and go to school and study, because you need that. So during the daylight hours, the melatonin acts as a catalyst. It geeks you up. It gives you the energy. At night, the melatonin relaxes you. And basically, that's what it does. It relaxes you.
And you need these two in order to function well. To sleep and to have a clear mind. Next.
The real reason I believe that the move on Iran was a psyop is this. If you think that this is a real war like Iraq in 2003, then you are not paying attention. Go back and watch the opening days of the Iraq war. It was shock and awe. Skylines lit up, sustained bombardment. And now look at what you're seeing today. We're supposedly watching Iran and Israel at war, and I see a few plumes of smoke, a building on the outskirts here or there. This isn't really shock and awe. This is a staged escalation. Dubai is still operating, Tel Aviv is still operating, Tehran is still operating. And inside Iran, political reorganization is happening. This looks like everyone agreed to certain lines so that nobody loses too much. Missiles hitting empty bases, interceptors causing fires, outskirt buildings being damaged, but core infrastructure is still standing. And in a couple of days, flights will be running, hotels will be full, and markets will stabilize, because this isn't about total war. This is about repositioning, and America needs to shift focus. Iran needs to look strong. Israel needs to maintain leverage, and everybody needs to save face. So what do? Trade symbolic blows. You write a script, you let the media sell the drama, and you move the chess pieces behind the scenes. If this were real, if this was true uncontrolled war, you would know. You wouldn't have to ask. My prediction is you give it a few days and you watch how world war turns back into diplomatic progress. And when it does, Remember, not everything you see is chaos, but sometimes it's choreography.
I agree, but that area is very special, and we all know what it is. But it's a ritual that needs to be done. What needs to be done? Sacrifices, blood, and that is what's happening right now. Next.
Listen up. I find it not a coincidence at all that the U.S. decided to strike Iran today, because it is the 11th day out of the 9th month on their calendar, which makes it 9/11. Nor is it a coincidence that Trump started his State of the Union address at 9:11 p.m. and in front of the 119th Congress. Now, a pretty significant event is about to happen on March the 3rd. It is a blood moon, and like I said, for the past 3 years, there has been a blood moon on Purim, and this is the last one. And it will peak at 6:33 Eastern Time and 3:33 Pacific Standard Time. But that's not the wildest part. This article says, see the impossible as sunrise and a total lunar eclipse appear at the same time on March the 3rd. A rare atmospheric effect called selenelion, where people will be able to see a rising sun and a blood moon at the same time. The entire eclipse is going to be visible in the pink, but people on the East Coast are going to be able to see this. This is literally called an impossible eclipse. And it's happening March the 3rd. We all know Iran Supreme Leader Khamenei was executed today, and he was born on an annual solar eclipse. And we know the day Donald Trump was born, there was a blood moon. Benjamin Netanyahu, there was an annual solar eclipse when he was born. Now, is this a sign of what's coming next? I don't know. But we know that the Lord said that there would be signs in the sky. Also, the U.S. just so happened to strike on the Shabbat before Purim. And tonight is the 6th planet alignment that forms a planetary parade. There is literally so many signs in the sky right now. This blood moon coming up seems to be more significant than people want to believe, especially when this is turning out to be the impossible eclipse.
Realize and know their MO. They always do things according to numerology, geometry, dates, and events. And if you can follow those, you would always know what's going to happen. Even though it might be different people, different places, different cities or states or countries, still, you will always know what's going to happen because they follow the script. The only thing they update on that script is the dates and the events. Next.
U.S. did not engage in war. Trump engaged in war. We told him to stop. We told him to sit his rabbit ass down. We still trying to deal with what he did in them damn files. And he over here starting war. Sit your ass down.
Next.
There is a horrific new Epstein story about Donald Trump. I can't even give you the full details because TikTok would melt down if I tried this. Donald Trump is alleged by a woman that when she was 13 years old, Epstein brought her to Trump. Trump took her head and forced it down. Let's leave it at that. She bit him. He slapped her hard, hit her in the head, and shoved her away. She interviewed with the FBI 4 times. They wanted to pursue the case. She then refused. This came from Roger Stellenberger, a journalist, and then NPR, National Public Radio, picked it up and confirmed it as well. Then the Trump White House, the administration, tried to hide it. She was interviewed 4 times. They didn't pop up. Remember all the document dumps? All the evidence had to be out by law. The Epstein files, they didn't include it. Only one of her interviews with the FBI went public, but it was scrubbed of any mention of Trump, so you would have thought it was just some random guy alleged to have done something horrific with this young girl, 13 years old. You wouldn't have known it was Donald Trump. The other 3 interviews, gone. National Public Radio and Roger were able to deduce it by looking at other documents that reference the documents that are missing, the interviews that are missing. 4 interviews, horrific interviews. It hid them from us. How is this man still president? Spread the word and follow along for more.
There's always going to be certain things they don't want you to know. But guess what? That is the very thing you're supposed to know. Next.
You have been eating humans. Yes, you heard me. I said humans. You have been eating human. Why are there no cemeteries being buried? That's the first thing, and that's the most common question that everybody has. How the fuck does McDonald's never run out of meat? And why is the McDonald's line always right around the fucking corner? I've been observing people of all ages that still eat that shit. How can your stomach even digest it? Well, if you knew a little bit about history, then you knew about the wild man, the beast. That wild man, that beast, ate human. And now they wrote it off as a myth as if it never happened. That God that my people worship and hold on to so much. They used to have barbecues after hanging my people that look like me here in America, barbecues of them, eating them. The Delectable Negro. That's what it was. It's a book called that. Go read that if you haven't. But this is nothing new, guys. This Epstein bullshit that they talking about, they have to tell us because all the truth is being revealed. We know who we are. People are passing away. The world is a stage, bro. If you still think that everything is peaches and cream, this video is not for you. Do not even bother commenting. I'm not talking to y'all. I'm talking to y'all who knows, feels, and can see that something's wrong and things are being revealed. This is not new. These are age-old rituals. They have deities that they make sacrifices to. And one of the biggest sacrifices that they are making to a deity called Jehovah God is the one that my people feel like they can't let go of with that bullshit Bible. That Bible is not even, the pastors go to seminary school literally to be taught what the Bible is about for real. They learn the history, knowing that Bible, those 66 books were selected, were different stories and accounts from different people who created this book and came together and said, yes, this is the perfect book to put them under a spell. But y'all like sleeping, so stay asleep, because when everything hits the fan more, you're going to be the one lost. And people like me, we already ahead of the game.
She does raise good questions. Where are the cemeteries? There's not more being built. What is our meat? There's not enough cows to feed so-called 9 billion people. That black book, it's a control mechanism. Enslavement, fear-mongering, making you feel degraded, limitless, and low, making you think that you need outside help when it's you. You are the one that takes responsibility. Yeah. Next.
What's that? Oh, a study was done on stress and the actual effects it has not only on the brain, but the body. Tell me more! Yeah, the study was done on stress and how it actually affects the body and the brain. And basically what they concluded was that, first of all, stress will make you look older the more you stress out about anything. It also will change the chemical balance in the brain because you're constantly stressed. That makes you constantly angry or fearful or whatever, and it puts your brain and body in fight or flight, which now leads to other things and makes you more susceptible to diseases, cancer, Alzheimer's. Not only that, during this study, some people actually went manic and in a state of psychosis because of stress. It literally made them snap. Okay?
Stress can cause all kinds of problems. It'll alter your brain. It'll alter your body because you will be susceptible to diseases, sicknesses. You will be sick more often. And as he says, it enhances whatever mental disorders you already have. Or it can cause more. Be less stressful of what you're looking at and whatever's going on in your world. Everything has an answer. Everything has a solution. You just have to think of it. Next.
The other day I was sitting outside and I was journaling and I was looking up into the sky, follow me, and I was looking at a bird, but I realized I was like hyper focused on the bird. But then a plane flies by and I'm like, okay, cool, it's a plane, it's a bird. And then I got like overly hyper focused on the fact of, or the idea of flying. Like birds fly, airplanes fly. So what's the difference between an airplane and a bird? So then I'm sitting there and I think to myself, well, a bird was created and an airplane was constructed, right? So then I'm thinking to myself, well, what's the true definition of construction and of creation? I look it up and it basically says that to be created means that you need to be brought into life by a higher source, i.e. we, right? And to be constructed is to take the intelligence of pre-existing materials, put it together so that it has a purpose to perform. So I'm thinking to myself, and lately I've been kind of beating myself up and I'm thinking like, dang, what do I need to be doing different? Like, what am I not doing already? What can I implement and add to my life, right? Then it dawned on me. That's the difference. I'm out here trying to move like an airplane when I'm a bird. I was created, not constructed, which means before I constructed these roles of being an attendant and an associate and all of these other different things, I was created. I had purpose before I performed. So I don't know who else has been kind of feeling stagnant mentally or feeling like maybe you're not doing enough or you need to kind of find your purpose in life or find what new things that you can get into. It's not about adding on to what's already there. It's about returning to alignment. In that moment, I had to realize that my prayer needed to change. I don't need to keep asking for more, but I need to be asking God to remind me who I am before I remember what I do. It's not always about the roles and the things that you're doing and the way that you're performing. It's more so about the things that you were created to do. That bird was created to fly, which is why it flies. An airplane was constructed to fly, which is why it flies, but only flies when it's being maintained properly. A bird is going to fly naturally because that's what it was intended to do. Your worth is not determined by the amount of money you make or the achievements that you have. Your worth was determined at the time of your creation. And you have to remember that. So when you're beating yourself up and you're constantly in your head thinking about how you're not doing enough and how you could be doing more, you have to understand that maybe you feel empty and maybe you're not satisfied with where you are in life because you're not doing what you were created to do. You are doing what you have constructed within this realm of life to do. And what the world has constructed you to do. So yeah, that thing that you keep thinking about that their higher version of self is calling you towards, but you're afraid to walk directly into, might just be that one thing that's going to bring you back to your alignment. Are you okay, right? Because listen to what I'm saying. That airplane is not going to fly if you don't maintain it properly, right? When you do the thing that you were actually called to do, the thing that you were created to do, should I say, you don't need to worry about how to maintain it because you've already been created to be sustained. You were created to be sustained, which means you don't have to worry about the how, the when, the why. Do it. All of that's going to come. It has to come. They have to go hand in hand because creation comes with purpose. I hope that made some sense. So the question is, are you doing what you were created or constructed to do? Because if you're in the construction zone, you might be running empty and feeling discomfort because it's not being maintained properly. And by being maintained properly, I mean you're trying to maintain it. Your true calling and what you created to do has already been sustained. Just do it. Just do it.
Basically, know who you are. You are organic, sentient being. Know who you are. You can have a great life.
The United States just spent $30 billion replacing textbooks with laptops and tablets, and it has now officially created the first generation in history that is less intelligent than their parents. This is obviously insane right now, but a neurologist just testified in front of the US Senate and said that Gen Z is the first generation in history to score lower on tests than the generation before them. And this is actually directly tied to the $30 billion that was spent shoving laptops and tablets into every single classroom in America. This is where it gets crazy, by the way, because the whole thing started on purpose back in 2002 whenever Maine became the first state to hand out laptops to students. The idea was simple back then, by the way, because it's give kids unlimited access to information and they'll learn more. But what actually happened is obviously the exact opposite. A 2021 survey actually found that more than half of teachers now have students on screens for 1 to 4 hours a day, and then a quarter actually said 5 or more. The neuroscientist literally told the Senate that we screwed up an entire generation. Yeah. And his message to Gen Z was this, I'm literally gonna quote it: "None of this was your fault and you should be mad about it." Okay. Should schools go back to textbooks?
Well, you can thank the educational institutions for that because that's what they're doing, dumbing down the students. Plus, everything they were taught. What were they taught? The majority of the people are not that intelligent anymore. And especially if they got that, they're dumber. So, what do we got to look forward to now? It is all upon us now. Because apparently, the younger generation ain't fit to help out in this world. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. This is only entertainment purposes only. Not all is true. It is up to the audience to decide what is true and what is false. Please like, comment, and share. And I thank you for your support. See you later.